Tell me.
Well, did you listen?
Never
mind. No.
What?
Oh,
that was so
welcome
close.
to Practical
That
Shooting
was
After
very
Dark.
close.
I did have a story to tell you, and I'm glad I did not start telling you that story.
Well, gentlemen, I'm Ben. We're here to talk about shooting guys on deck tonight.
We're not here to talk about shooting guys. We're here to talk about shooting, guys.
No, you can shoot guys if you want. Like, leave me the hell out of it, but shoot all the guys you like. Anyway, on deck, Mr. Joel Park.
Hello, everyone.
And Tyler Turner's also here, which is fantastic. We really couldn't have a better lineup. I don't think. All right, gentlemen, you guys know the rules. Everybody comes here with a fun topic to talk about, something that pisses them off, some gear to show and tell, something like that. And then we'll maybe do some questions. So I think Joel and I have kind of a combined topic.
We do.
We do. Tyler, we've been lying to you for months now.
I heard a little bit about this. I think it's going to be pretty good.
All right, Joel, would you like to talk about the thing?
No. Go ahead, Ben. I wouldn't bring much to
I have to talk about it?
Yes.
All right. So as you guys are probably aware, every year I put out a book, or a revision of a book, new book, whatever. I do a thing every year. This year's thing, well, it's what's a good way of describing it, Mr. Joel?
Ben has books written which tell you technique, how to do the thing.
Yes.
So like how to practice, how to do a drill, how to hold the gun.
Yep, we got all that covered.
There are books not written by somebody that shoots our sport talking about the mental side of it. That maybe some of it applies, maybe some of it doesn't. So there really is not a book from a high-level shooter that has how to behave at matches, the mental game, how to visualize, how to put everything together.
How to behave at matches. I don't know if I...
how to be a good competitor. How about how to be a good competitor? How's that?
There you go.
So how about how to put everything together? So not necessarily teaching you, this is the way you hold the gun, this is the way you press the trigger, but everything else that goes into being effective at matches.
So anyway, my thinking this year was I'll do a tentatively titled Practical Shooting Competition. What are the odds that title, it makes it out the door with that, Joel?
40%.
Yeah, that's fair. So there's a 40% chance that will be the title. Right now it's a working title. But I wanted to put together something that's like how you leverage the skills you have to do well at matches. That's a good way of putting it. So like the competition side, even planning your season, picking matches, show up at the matches, walking through the stages, how to manage people on your squad, like not manage them to get them to do what you want, but just manage.
How about etiquette?
Yeah, etiquette's a good way of putting it. All of that stuff, visualization, working on sort of mental toughness, tracking scores throughout the match, like all those topics are covered. And I think, Joel's right. This hasn't been covered this way in quite a long time. I think Saul Kirsch wrote a book a long time ago called Thinking Practical Shooting that had some of this stuff in it.
I have that book.
Yeah, but since then, there hasn't been a whole lot of it. So anyway, that was kind of what I wanted to do. And since I'm a lazy bitch, I thought it would be good to get some help. So then I enlisted Joel to help me. It's like, this is lining up so far, Joel?
Pretty accurate.
Right. No, look, I'm lazy and Joel, Joel does a lot of stuff, but there's really nothing for Joel to do to get paid. Like if we could hire Joel for training group, I totally would because Joel's awesome. But this was something I kind of could hire him to do. So that's what I did.
I'm happy to be a part of what's going on. How's
so
that?
As much as I would like to say that I had Joel ghostwrite this thing, that did not happen. Like I feel like it was just easier for me to work with somebody. So we are nearing completion of this project. We've been at it, 6 months, Joel?
Maybe more, but yeah.
Maybe longer than 6 months. So it's been quite a while, and it's been just kind of picking at it now and again. It's not my first rodeo, but it's Joel's first rodeo. So.
Yes, and I get taxed with the organizational side. So
yeah, that's what I suck at.
Well, yeah, okay. So Ben has something he writes, which is very, very good. I mean, you could put it in the book, it would be fine. But he sends it to me, and I have like I'll highlight and I enter these little like notes. I'm like, well, how'd you feel this way? Would you mind telling me like how you felt and how did you deal with this? Like this happened. I understand what you're telling me. Like, tell me more. And so then like what you sent me was good, but it's not good enough. But it was, but I need more. So I just like send it back to Ben, and he'll send me something, and then it's like, well, I want to know more about this now. Hey, well, how about like the first time Ben won nationals is talked about like in detail at this book, which I don't. To this level that we talk about, I don't want to speak for Ben too much. Has not been discussed elsewhere. It's like, how do you feel? How do you know? How do you track? How do you behave? This is your first time for all this stuff. So
Yeah.
a lot of really good conversations that Ben and I have had privately, but it's not in a book. So
yeah. So anyway,
Yeah.
that's what Joel and I have been working on, which has been good. And now Joel, and I'm happy to say, Joel, you see like how the way my year ebbs and flows like really changes my productivity level.
yes.
I think I wrote 7,000 words in one day at one point.
Mm-hmm.
Which, if you've ever written anything, that is a shitload.
Yes. When I was like, hey, Ben, I've got all this stuff written. Like, we're going to see something from you eventually, right? But he had this national championship he was worried about winning. And
yeah, I have a lot of shit. I have a lot of irons in the fire, but then like when it's time to do book stuff, I'm always good and productive. So that will be coming, listener people. So Tyler, I'm guessing you have a couple questions about that because you haven't seen any of it yet. Maybe not.
Yeah. That's. I think it's pretty exciting. That's gonna fill a gap, like you mentioned, that has existed at least in practical shooting for a little while. So it's exciting. So yeah, I've got 3 questions. One, when are we going to see it?
I would guess February. It'll be before you start your shooting season next year, I think.
All right. Second
Like
question.
if we can get it done in January, we will.
All right. Second question. What formats? Paper and e-reader?
Paper and e-reader.
All right.
Both.
Third question. Can you teach me how to lobby for perfect doubles? Is that going to be covered?
Fuck yes, I could teach you how to do that.
Yes,
it's not covered in the book, but I've seen enough people do it successfully that I could tell you how to do it for sure.
Ben, you don't have this part of the chapter sent to you yet, but yes, I have very clear instructions on that type of a situation and how one should behave, and if you want to be well liked or not afterwards. So
Yeah,
that is discussed.
that is true.
But it sounds like there's going to be examples from your own career where you're sort of, if not bearing your soul, maybe like the inner workings, like what specifically went through your head in particular scenarios.
Yeah, and there's actually a section of I want some of it to be actionable. Mm-hmm. So there's mental exercises in here, things that I use and I do like I want to increase my stress level for whatever reason. Like, let's say I'm at a club match. I don't give a fuck. It's raining. It's, snowing. It's cold. My dog ate my homework, whatever it is. I'm 4 stages into a match that I no longer care about, which happens. Or I need to reduce my stress level. Like, I'm at nationals and it's the first stage. Everybody's going to feel a little stressed then. Like, okay, what are some specific steps to reduce the amount of stress that I'm feeling? Specifics on how to visualize stuff, doing cueing, especially for training. So there's some pretty in-depth discussion of actual mental exercises and things that I do, the things that have worked for me. And then a lot of I would say it's very frank discussion. Joel, is that a good way of putting it? Mm-hmm. About hey, you might feel intimidated. You might feel this. You might have that going on, and this is how to deal with that stuff. And it's kind of it's very direct. We're not skirting any of that stuff. Because, grown men don't like to discuss their emotions, Tyler. They don't. But, I mean, that stuff is really important at matches. You know what I mean? How many times have you seen a guy go to a match and just melt and then not really acknowledge it after? It's hey, dude, you wilted under this pressure, and maybe you should think about how to deal with this in the future or whatever. But that person will not want to. They won't even really want to acknowledge it to themselves. So there's kind of discussion of all that sort of stuff in fairly direct way. I would say it's not pulling any punches.
Well, and the state of mental game discussion, for lack of a better descriptive term, in the sport for a while has been dominated by this concept that it's like magic. And it exists separately from your technical skills and your technical ability. And it sounds like
it's all one picture. It's kind of like, hey, Tyler, if you have a headache, like, do you have is it like your mental game is bad, or is there physical stuff going on? Or if, somebody's crazy and they have psychological issues, you're still going to see physical manifestations of that. That sort of stuff. I mean, it's all one thing with a person. It's like, it's a very interrelated sort of machine. So I wouldn't say my view of it's that it's anything like magic.
But what makes it unique is if you go to a class, the instructor will show you how to grip the gun correctly and how to get the result you want. So let's say, well, you can take me, for instance. I go to I can shred stuff super hard in training, but then how do I put that all together to match? And there aren't really a lot of good references for doing that. So there's a lot of good, you can, have Ben come do a class with you, but that separate part that's being addressed isn't taught, I guess, as much. Or maybe not.
No, I mean, well, it's like what individual people need to understand, but it's like I will give you feedback that is appropriate for where you are as far as how you're approaching the stage. But since I view it as, I don't view your technical ability as that different from your mindset or your ability to apply it in a match, right? I don't view these things as all that as separate pieces. I think it's kind of all one thing, but people may not understand kind of the distinction. Like, for example, if I see somebody shoot a stage, I might give a correction that would probably fall more under mental game or approach. Like, hey, you're approaching this stage wrong. It has nothing to do with your shooting ability. Like, you are shooting the stage like a dumbass for one reason or another. Like, that's the big problem here. That's the main issue. Whereas another guy who's shooting the stage, you might look at it and be like, it looks like a really nice run, really good shooting. I might have sort of really mean sounding feedback for that person because I think their approach to the stage is wrong. You know what I mean? Like, hey, that person's way too conservative. They're not going to win anything like that. They're a better shooter than this. They need to change their approach. Now, is that mental game? Is that technical training? I mean, you know what I mean? Like, a lot of times just having distinctions there is sort of pointless. It's just like, this is the problem, so let's address it. But yeah, so I mean, this material should kind of plug that hole.
Yeah. So anything that can help move the mental game, it just has this aura of like mysticism a lot of times.
Yeah, like putting fucking like note cards around your house to convince yourself you're a good shooter.
Yeah. So if we can, through this, and I think that'll be the outcome, if people can begin to kind of reevaluate the mental game and make it not so mystical, I think that would be a really, really good thing.
Well, I couldn't agree more, Tyler. So we're happy to be
I'm
part
excited.
of it.
I'm excited.
I'm happy Joel has something to do that he can get paid on. So it's like, because if people haven't picked up on it, Joel just does a lot of things that are very helpful, but he doesn't really get paid.
Well, that's not why I help out, though.
I know. It's like,
I don't really care. I mean, money is fine, okay, but that's not
what
really
does
like
the Joker say
motivation at all.
Joel?
I don't know. Please tell me.
Yeah, you do. If you're good at something, never do it for free.
Oh, yes. This is true.
So what about cover art? You got that figured out?
I don't. Something will be coming.
Yeah.
I've also shopped that out to a person who is good with that stuff.
You could do some really cool stuff with a book about that kind of thing, cover art.
Yeah, like have somebody's like head getting pulled off, right, and then like a diagram of their brain coming out, and like, okay, awesome. Well, I think it's your turn, Mr. Tyler, unless Joel has something else to add.
That's it.
All right.
Okay. If there was such a thing as performance-enhancing drugs that applied and that would be beneficial for shooting sports, would you take them? So let's say...
I think that would be mandatory.
So let's say...
Am I breaking any laws?
No. there's well, let's say it's not totally ethical. It's not like over the counter you could go get this, but there's a drug that has to be prescribed to you that makes your vision like twice as good or 3 times as good. Like you can focus faster, you can see faster, you can see more. Let's just say that
sounds like a pyramid scheme so far.
That sort of thing, or the drug in Limitless. What was it like? You know what I'm talking about? That movie. Let's just say that drug existed. Would you take it?
Yes.
Probably.
Does that have any ethical like implications, or do you have any qualms about that at all?
No. Nope. We're good.
It'd be like the steroid era in baseball. Like if everyone's taking it, like we're all on the same playing field.
Well, how does this work? I'm not obviously not a bodybuilder, but I think the way it works there is they all take steroids. Nobody admits to it, and then there's like a separate league, like the natural bodybuilders that don't take steroids, but nobody gives a shit about that.
They're taking it too.
Right? Yeah, they're probably taking it too. But
even the natty guys are
like, but nobody cares about them.
Right?
Is that fair? Like,
yeah.
No one gives a shit.
Okay.
So
okay, so that was theoretical. Like, what about real deal stuff you can get now? Like, let's say if you go to your doctor and you say, I just can't concentrate. Like, I can't do work. So give me an Adderall script. Is that unethical for shooting?
Probably.
I would not do that. That does sound.
It's probably unethical, but
illegal.
I don't know. Doesn't sound that bad. Like as far as shit people do, it doesn't. Like I way more have a problem with somebody like trying to get a double on something they know they missed than I would a guy taking Adderall to help him focus when he's training. Like I don't.
Yeah. No, I'm talking about he's at nationals and or I don't know, maybe he's walking stages the day before and he's snorting rails of Adderall to help him memorize.
I'm not sure that's helpful.
Is that cheating?
I don't know. It starts to get to a pretty straight, like a pretty gray area, right?
Sounds like nothing I would want to be connected with. Yeah.
Right. Okay. But like I drink a lot of caffeine so I can stay up and train more or whatever. I mean, one of those substances is prohibited and punished and one of them is not. Whereas like these are, it is a gray area and an interesting discussion. I'm not sure any of this stuff helps for shooting. But if there was something, that would probably be pretty cool.
So what if the thing for your eyes, it makes your eyesight twice as good, let's just say. And it's designed for people who have like some kind of eye deficiency or disease or something. And as a shooter, you go to your doctor. You don't have an eye disease, but you go and you say, look, I can't see anything, just like Adderall for concentration. I can't see anything, like I have presbyopia, whatever. I need you to prescribe me this. And you get it from your doctor. And now you have an advantage. Now, can you quantify it? Probably not, but you have an advantage. Or that would apply to shooting. So, ethical, not ethical.
You're doing it explicitly for the purpose of shooting better.
Yes.
It's
just
probably
like
not
you got
ethical.
an Adderall script to help you concentrate and, process faster.
It's probably not ethical doing it explicitly for that purpose, but it's not a huge. It's like it's such a. I mean, it's such a sort of attenuated relationship between one and the other. I'm not convinced any of it would help.
Well, let's just say somehow we could quantify it, and it results in a 2% increase on your scores.
Yeah, so now you're saying you pretty much, if one of the top dudes in your division is taking this, he now essentially, unless his gear breaks, he now essentially becomes unbeatable to the other guys. Because 2% is a lot, right?
He just has a 2% increase.
2 or 3% increase in your scores at a certain level, you become pretty much unstoppable.
Well, and the thing is, you don't know if your competitors are taking it or not. All you know is that you yourself would improve by 2%. you take it or not. This is like the steroid era in baseball.
This is? Wait, is this hypothetical? You're saying there's something out there that
No. This is totally hypothetical. I was daydreaming earlier today. I thought it might make an interesting topic.
Well,
Joel,
I've
you're
always
being so quiet.
What's that?
You're being so quiet.
You know me, I'm pretty anything like that shady, I would not want to have anything to do with it. No, not worth the potential gains for what you could potentially lose. So, like, what could you potentially gain? 2%. What could you potentially lose? Everything. Okay.
No, what's to lose? You don't tell anyone.
It's not me.
Everyone at this point, let's assume everyone has heard about this, knows about it. It's all out there. And you assume anyone who beats you is taking this, right?
Is it something you can buy over the counter?
No, you have to go to your doctor and tell them you have an eye problem.
You have to lie to your doctor. Let me get this straight. You have to lie.
You do have an eye problem. Your eyes don't work as good as the other guys you're competing against.
So that's right.
All I have to do is lie to a medical professional to get a script for something I don't need. Is that correct?
Well, if you want to put it like that, how about this? How about you go and you tell, let's say you go to your doctor and you lay it out for him flat out. You're just like, yeah, so I'm in this sport. I'm getting fucking crushed right now because I'm pretty sure, I don't know about Tyler, but I'm pretty sure Joel's taking this stuff and he's beating my ass now. So I need to get on that level because I'm getting old and my eyes are going to shit. And the doctor would be like, well, you are not as young as you used to be. And yeah, this sounds reasonable. So they write you the script and you didn't even lie. You laid it out. Does that strike you as unethical, Joel?
That strikes me as something that would probably pretty easily happen, especially if there was like nothing, I don't know, what would you call it? Like narcotic or habit forming nature of it, I'm sure. But yeah, I don't know. I would probably pass just because that's me. I'm just being real with you. If you could go to you go to CVS or Walgreens and it's on the shelf, yeah, sign me up. If I have to go lie to some doctor to get it, I'll pass. Or even make up some excuse to a doctor to get it, I'll pass.
What about you, Tyler?
I don't know. Well, the situation currently exists with Adderall. I haven't gone to a doctor and said, look, I can't keep my head on straight during the day at work. I just find myself floating away. I need Adderall script. So I think it's about the same deal. If I don't need it, I'm not going to get it.
Well, I think generally speaking, the less drugs you take, probably the better.
Probably good.
And if it's brand new, then you can spot the guys in 5 years that have been taking it because they're tweaking out of their mind or their eyeballs fall out of their socket or something. Well, then you could maybe beat them. So you just train for 5 years. You wait for their eyeballs to fall out of their head or something, and then you could beat them.
Yeah.
They don't have not to make fun of people that have a disability, but they don't have Braille USPSA. So once they go whatever.
It is one of the nice things about this sport is that people have a really long window that they can be competitive for. From the end of puberty probably till age 40, pretty easily pretty have a long time to be competitive. I don't think steroids or performance enhancing shit help a whole lot. So that should keep this discussion pretty much hypothetical for us.
Well, even the eye. So if you want to see better, you have to see, you pick a spot, you bring your sights to the spot. So what would you gain? Potentially seeing your bullet holes? Well, hey, I'm not gonna sit there all day to say no, that one's just a Charlie. I'll shoot one more. What do we got now?
The way that these things get worked out is by the organizations, right? So it would be up to USPSA to have some policy and some procedures in place. You might be interested to know, Tyler, that IPSC has an anti-doping policy in place. And some people have actually been tested at the last World Shoot.
Do they, is that random
drugs
testing?
They said it was random. I can assure you it was not. They were pulling the top 3 guys in divisions and stuff. They said it was random. There's no fucking way it was random.
What does it do they use the
WADA standards?
Is that the Olympics?
World Anti-Doping Agency, yeah. Olympic standards.
Yeah.
So they're testing you for performance-enhancing drug use, and then evidence of you can't be taking cocaine during the competition. So if they find evidence that you were high,
reasonable.
If you were high or fucked up during the competition, that'd be a problem. Or if you're drunk during the match, that's an issue. And then performance-enhancing drugs. be an issue. I mean, I think IPSC is just doing that I don't know, just to try and gain legitimacy or something.
Well, right on your parade.
And it's sort of they want to create that air of legitimacy or being on the same platform as established sports because they're trying to get into the sport accord, right?
Yes.
They're still trying to get into sport accord and all those other organizations.
Yes, the guys, the BOCs running it just want more people to take them seriously, I guess. I don't know.
The whole idea of PEDs and shooting is super silly. Like there's nothing to be gained. What if you took steroids, like bodybuilding, anabolic steroids for shooting? It's going to do shit for your shooting.
Nothing.
Absolutely nothing. I just thought it was kind of an interesting thought experiment.
It is. All right, let's move on to a question. I guarantee you guys are going to love this. Not really. Maybe. We'll see. Have you ever considered a class for people wanting to become local level instructors? This would not apply to me, but I think there's a good number of GM level shooters who don't teach because no one has ever taught them how to teach. Possibly another way for you to pass along some of your accumulated knowledge and capitalize from the time and effort you put in gaining that knowledge.
It's an interesting question.
It is an interesting question. What do you guys say? I mean, you're probably directing it more at me, but you guys probably have an opinion, as you usually do.
Well, I would say, I didn't mean to cut you, Tyler. I would say the information's already out there if you care to look for it. So to plug Training Group is, with the exception of the gold and the rest of the sections, is basically Ben coaching people in a visible way for all the members. So let's say I post a video and Ben critiques my shooting and gives me actionable stuff to work on. I get that, but then people like Tyler watches the video. Tyler learns from that also. So if you're paying attention, you would see a trend or watching those videos over an amount of time, seeing the stuff Ben's looking for. You can look at the class dumps, like all that information is, I would say kind of already out there if you wanted to. But I would also say you have to be the right person that likes teaching also, because just being able to shoot at a high level does not make you a teacher. Ben is actually both. But you have to be able to explain things, I would say, different ways. And not everybody, like, I had a class a couple days ago, Monday. And so I watched this guy shoot, and I spot out right away. I'm like, yeah, you are definitely over-aiming on everything. Like, I try to get you to push. I'm like, hey, you're uncomfortable right now because you're not used to shooting that fast. He's like, yeah. I'm like, I'm reading his body language, and I can tell. Like, I'm trying to tell him, just as soon as you see a flash of the dot, send it. But I can read his body language to tell him how he's feeling, and then he's just shaking his head like, yeah. But not everybody, and I'm not saying I'm anything so special, but not everybody could do that. So just writing out a piece of paper or telling, like, Tyler, do it this way, that doesn't make you an instructor. So,
what do you say, Tyler?
I think you're special, Joel.
Well,
So
thank you.
So Ben, is he basically asking you almost about like franchising your training methodology?
You could read it that way. I think you left it pretty open-ended. But
that's how I read it. Would you consider, or have you considered franchise? Like, let's say you create the Steger method and you have a system to certify instructors, or you have a network of instructors that you bless or whatever, and then you have those regionally or something. That's how I read it, which is kind of interesting.
It is. So it's kind of interesting. So I can tell you why the business of that is tricky. So I should say, as far as helping other instructors or training other instructors, I already do that, but it's informal. So it's guys like, there's little Joels all over the place who are doing their own thing and then bring me for classes, and then they do their thing a little differently afterward. There's a lot of that. But okay, so that's the first part. The second part is the business of this is tricky. So the way this would work is, let's say you have a 5-day program for training an instructor or a few instructors, and then there's like a 2-day class after that where you watch the instructors train other people or something to certify them. in order for that to make any sense, you'd need to be like running a lot of people through that program, which means turning out a lot of instructors, which means turning out shitty instructors, probably. You know what I mean?
Yeah, because
So,
you could, even a week, you would not have, I don't think you could give everybody all
no.
the tools they'd need.
It becomes an instructor farm, essentially, which I
But
mean,
then flood
look
the
at
market.
yeah, look at like an NRA basic pistol instructor certification. How many people have that? I mean, that means like you're laughing just what I mentioned it, Tyler.
Everyone and their brother. Yeah.
No one gives a fuck about that. No one cares. Like I don't have that certification. I don't have any certification for what I do at all.
How
None.
dare you? How do you feel qualified to teach me anything?
I don't know. I mean, I have insurance, but no actual qualifications. Nothing that anybody gives a fuck about. So that's the first part of it. Is like if you have a instructor mill, then it's a problem. If you are training people properly, you'd have to charge them a lot, and it wouldn't, strictly speaking, be like a good deal for me or them, because it'd suck up a lot of my energy. But like, how much could they really pay for it? Like, I don't know. It wouldn't make that much sense. And then a franchise instructor program kind of makes sense, but let's say that I put in a ton of time and energy training a guy. After that guy becomes competent, that guy doesn't need me anymore. So like all that time and energy, it's like that's the upfront investment, but then it's like on the back end, that person, like, well, they don't need me for anything. They're doing their own thing, which is why you don't see a lot of stuff like this working.
Yeah.
Quite honestly, because it doesn't.
Well, it's already a small enough market also. I mean, USPSA is what, 35,000 active competitors?
Yeah.
I mean, like, there are a handful of guys, I mean, as you know, that do like the traveling instructor thing.
There's
But
not that many.
If you had 100 traveling instructors, like, I don't think the market would support that.
No, the market, well, what are there, 5 guys that do this full time?
Yeah. Think about if you had 100 or like 50.
No, there can't be 100.
No.
There's not enough. The market's not big enough. There will not be 100.
I think what he's describing already happens informally. If you've got a club GM or a state GM or a regional GM who doesn't travel to teach but offers classes locally or whatever, I mean, everyone knows everyone's associations in the sport because it's so small. So
They at least think they know.
Yeah, the analogy that comes to mind is like you hear commentators talk about like coaching trees in the NFL. Like,
yeah,
he's from the Bill Belichick school or the Norv Turner school or whatever. So like, if people who know Joel know that more or less you're going to apply the Steger method, which by the way I'm going to trademark.
Okay.
And let's say if I started teaching classes, people would have a very good idea that more or less I'm coming from the Steger coaching tree, if that makes sense.
Well, because it worked for you. You've done it, and you've become an accomplished shooter using that method.
Yeah, and so it happens informally, and I think it's a pretty good system.
It is. I mean, there's no like rubber stamp of approval that I like. There's no stamp of approval I would want to put on an instructor usually. Like if some dude I don't know comes and then spends 40 hours in a week with me, and I like stamp him like, hey, this guy's good to go as an instructor. Like I'm very critical of that system, to be honest. It's a lot of people I know who go and do some training school or some instructor school for 40 hours, and then they come back and think they're an expert at something, and it's like whatever, dude. I mean, just of like us on here, we probably each of us spend, I'm guessing, 15, 20 hours a week developing our skills. It's like, so some dude who spends 40 hours developing his skills, like, I don't give a fuck. Like, I'm not impressed by that at all.
Yeah.
Not at the level that you need people to be at.
And then, like, you would be married to that person on some point, or it's like your integrity. So it's like, hey, you've got this guy, I don't know, Bob, who's like, okay, this guy's endorsed by Ben. Well, if I see this guy, I'm like, hey, Ben vouches for this. Like, this guy's going to be okay. On some level, that reflects on Ben.
Well, And that's not to mention, I mean, you may have some actual like civil liability for shenanigans or bad things that happen. Like the whole thing, the whole idea is kind of fraught with problems.
Yeah. But of course, an interesting discussion. So, anything to add, guys? No. What do you say now, Joel?
I don't know. That
Say it
sounds
was
like
a
the
bang
next.
up podcast.
It was a bang up podcast.
All right, listeners, if you have a question, go to bensegger.com. Send me your questions. We'd be happy to address them. Thank you, Joel. Thank you, Tyler, for coming on. I do appreciate it.